What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Gridiron Talk Zone Podcast, episode 10. As you can see, guys, we're no longer the NFL Talk Zone. We're actually the Gridiron Talk Zone. I think that's a better name. What do you think about that, Nick?
I don't know. I guess it's a better name than the last one because we know we at least shouldn't be getting copyrighted. We didn't get copyrighted with the last one, but something happened to where we think we could potentially be copyrighted. So anyway, we're not gonna stick with that name. It makes more sense to not have NFL in our name anyway. So we're going with Gridiron Talk Zone, and that'll be the new name. But anyway, today's pod, we're gonna start off with. Well, we have a lot to go through. If you watched last week's, it's basically the same as last week. It's just a new week, new games, new matchups to talk about. We're going to start off recapping some of the top action from week 2. So let me pull up something real quick. So we already talked about the Thursday night game because we did a pod Friday last week. It was Chiefs-Chargers. Chiefs beat the Chargers in a pretty close game, 27-24. So we're not going to talk about that. Moving on to the actual games that were on Sunday, though. Let's start with the Sunday night butt whooping. Packers 27, Bears 10. I had the Bears covering the 10-point spread. Graham said they wouldn't. Graham, you were right about that. We just didn't look good offensively after the first drive. Couldn't really do much moving the ball. Defense didn't play good in the first half. Picked it up in the second half, but the offense couldn't pick it up until the last drive when they almost scored. So overall, just not a very good showing from the Bears, but I guess you can say it's expected because it's the Bears-Packers. But I don't think you have anything to add to that, do you?
Nope, I was right. You were wrong. Haha.
Okay. Move on to Jets-Browns. Actually, the story note of last week was so many close endings to games that were usually not very good for the first or good portion of the game wasn't good, and then the ending would get wild. Jets-Browns is one of those. Jets scored at the end, touchdown. Then they recovered the onside kick. Well, they were down 13. They scored a touchdown, onside kick. Then they scored again, Joe Flacco to Garrett Wilson, and they made the extra point and beat the Browns. So that was my upset of the week, so I'm feeling good about that one. On to Commandos-Lions, one of the games we was split on last week. Graham had Lions, I had Commandos. It was a 9-point game, 36-27, but Lions really just blew them out if you watched the game. So
The Lions are really, really complete.
Lions, well, I wouldn't say they look really, really complete. I think the offense just looks really, really good. But
their defense was very dominant those first 3 quarters, and then once garbage
time, Hutchinson played a very good game.
Yeah.
On to Buccaneers Saints. This game was close for pretty much the whole game until the fourth quarter when the Saints started turning over the football. But I just don't feel like Jameis is the guy. Not just off of 1 week, but before the year I wasn't very high on him, and I don't know. I feel like this is his last year as New Orleans starting quarterback. I think they're going to be drafting a quarterback, whether that's the Kentucky quarterback, Levis, or Van Dyke from Miami, just someone. They're going to draft a quarterback in the top 15 next year is my prediction. Anything you want to say about your team?
Tough loss.
We both had New Orleans winning, by the way, because they usually have a good matchup versus Tampa Bay, and this one was in New Orleans.
So watching the broadcast, Greg Olsen brought up a good point. And it was after that really big fight with Mike Evans, Marshawn Lattimore. Also, Bruce Arians was the one who started that. Just like
that was funny.
Let's keep that in mind. Bruce Arians was the one who started this fight. Then Tom Brady came in, and then Mike Evans came in. It was like what team was going to be able to stay more focused in the game and not get into their emotions. And the Bucs, with Tom Brady as their leader, was able to stay in the game and go, and they were able to win. And compared to the Saints, where it looked like they fell apart, which is really disappointing to see because before that fight, all the momentum was on the Saints side. The defense was allowing nothing. The offense was, they were finally making progressions down the field. We weren't being pushed back into our 20. We were pushing them back to their 20. And overall, it just all fell apart after that. Jameis Winston opened the bakery with 4 interceptions. Couldn't hit with Chris Olave at all in the deep shots. Just really disappointing.
A bright spot for the Saints is that Michael Thomas is looking very good early on.
Yes.
So that's good for them. Hopefully they get Kamara back and he has a better showing than week 1. Oh. But moving on to Panthers-Giants. Panthers kept it close. It was a close game. Giants won 19-16. Giants are 2-0. They played good. the Titans win was pretty impressive. The Giants one, I don't think either team was impressive. It was just who was going to lose the game, really. And the Giants ended up being on the opposite side of that and won the game. So moving on, Patriots-Steelers, another low-scoring game. Patriots beat the Steelers 17-14. It felt like Pittsburgh had lots of opportunities to really score and just win the game, but the offense just couldn't get it going late.
Yeah.
Anything you would add to those two?
Might be time for Mitchell Trubisky to hand the reins over to Kenny Pickett.
Okay, I'm more on the side where Matt Canada should be the one on the hot seat, not Trubisky, because I know it's just one play, but that play was the Bengals in overtime, scrambling, rolling back across his body, throwing, big time throw. That's just a throw that you really like to see out of your quarterback, and I don't think Trubisky has really been the problem early on.
Yeah,
even the Steelers. Pretty much, did you see where the receivers, literally almost everyone on the team is saying we can only execute what is being called? So they're basically throwing, I don't know if that's what they're trying to do, but it seems from my point of view that it seems like it's a little shade at the OC, which is not good.
It's just, and then for the Patriots, they really didn't look good either, to be honest with you. They looked even more like a stale chip. They are so stale. I mean, Matt Patricia is terrible. This weird thing that they have with Joe Judge and Matt Patricia, it isn't working. Even though they won, but they win 17-14 in a game in Pittsburgh. Yeah, congratulations. You won by 3 points in a low-scoring game where Mitchell Trubisky is your starting quarterback on the other side with a terrible offensive line and a really, really good running back of Najee Harris. And that's just about it. It just – those two teams to me are terrible. And it sucks to see because – they're both really, really good. When we were like kids, like we watched them growing up, and like Big Ben and Tom Brady. To me, they're so bad. And even though the Bengals lost to the Steelers week 1, it just, I don't know. These teams look really, really bad.
Steelers play tonight. See if the offense makes any improvements. I don't think the Steelers are bad, but we've already debated about that.
Yeah.
But moving on to the Colts Jaguars, which is kind of the shocker of the week. I know the Colts were very banged up, and that made me almost want to pick the Jags, but I still picked the Colts. But losing 24-0, even with the injury of Pittman, Alec Pierce, and Shaquille Leonard, it's still shocking that you lose 24-0. But Jacksonville, that was a good showing on both sides of the ball for them, and see if they can keep it rolling this week. But the Colts, you'd like to see them have a good game this week. They do play the Chiefs. We'll give our picks for that game later, but Colts are concerning. We're going to have another Colts segment on the overreaction or not segment. But we're gonna have a lot of passionate opinions about that, so I want to save our opinions for later.
Yeah, let's go ahead and move on with this. We'll be talking a lot about the Colts today.
Dolphins Ravens, arguably, I'm going to say it's the game of the week.
It was the game of the week.
Another game we'll get to is up there, but Ravens, very impressive fourth quarter. The Dolphins were down 35-14. They came back. Just the big plays. Tyreek Hill beating the Ravens coverage, getting wide open, really just was impressive. And a bad showing for the Ravens secondary blowing those coverages, but impressive performance from Tua and the Dolphins as a whole to win this game.
Yeah, to the Ravens' benefit, I will say that secondary is brand new to each other. Kyle Hamilton being drafted, Marcus Williams coming back from free agency, Humphrey and Peters are going to be coming back from injuries, and they're still working their ways back, full time. So it's going to be a little bit difficult for this team to finally gel, but I think that'll come throughout the season. But yeah, it was a very good game. Tua 6 touchdowns, 4 of them to Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill. Interesting.
The game was kind of the opposite of what I thought. I thought this was going to be like a 2017, 24-21 type game, but it was just a shootout from the start, really, and really picked it up late in the game because the Ravens did start off the game with a kick return touchdown, but Dolphins fought the way through and came back and beat the Ravens. So we can move on to the next game. Rams-Falcons. Rams won 31-27. It was pretty much just a blowout for most of the game, and then the Falcons made it interesting at the end, but they ended with Mariota throwing the interception in the end zone. Then they got the ball back for like a Hail Mary opportunity, but they didn't get the throw off, if I'm correct. So, yeah, nothing really to say about that game. It wasn't too interesting, really, in my opinion. To be honest, I didn't watch too much of that game. So, did you? We can move on to the 49ers Seahawks. 49ers, the big story here was Trey Lance getting injured very early in the game. Out for the year. Was it a fractured ankle, I believe?
Yes.
And he's out for the year. He had a season-ending surgery already, but
Tough luck.
the Niners, they look good offensively and defensively in a game at home versus the Seahawks. You expect them to win by a good amount. They won by 20, so that's good for them. So how are you feeling about Jimmy G for the rest of the year?
Man, isn't he lucky? If you really think about it, a couple months ago, we were like, man, Jimmy Garoppolo is not going to be playing for San Francisco anymore. He's got the good roster. He's got the good offensive line, good running game. And then he's got Deebo Samuel. And he's going to get benched for Trey Lance because Trey Lance has the upside, the ceiling, and all that. And now look at him now, still in the 49ers, took a pay cut, and now he's going to be the starting quarterback for the rest of the year. And let's see what he can do with it.
Just looking at backgrounds. But we'll just roll with this for now. But anyway, moving on to the next game, the Bengals-Cowboys. The Cowboys beat the Bengals in a shocker 20-17. This was a shocker. I thought the Bengals were just going to run away with this game. The Cowboys kind of, I think, had the lead the entire game, too. It wasn't like Cowboys just put together some stuff at the end.
The Bengals were definitely playing catch-up.
The Bengals just did not play good. The offensive line not looking good. The defenses actually look solid, but really the O-line has not looked good at all. Some people saying it even looks worse than last year, especially with the sacks they've given up.
It does look worse.
The chemistry between just the overall team and offense doesn't look as good as it was ending last year. They can only go up from here, though. That's the good part for the Bengals. Yep. I can't see a scenario where they get worse than they are right now, so I think it's just early year slumps. Hopefully they pick it up because they're definitely a very good, exciting football team, so we expect them to pick it up. Yep. At least I do.
I also as well.
On to the next one. Got a few games left for Week 2 recap. Broncos-Texans. It was kind of just a low-scoring game, the whole game. Close game, though, but Texans lost 16-9. Not a very impressive showing by either team.
Nope.
But the Broncos escaped with a win, and I guess that's all that matters, even though it wasn't the best performance by them.
Yeah, I'm very, very disappointed with the Broncos recently. They do not look good. They do not look like the team we all hyped them up to be.
On to the next game. We got Cardinals-Raiders. You see I got both jerseys there in the back. Well, one doesn't play for the Cardinals anymore. I got the Fitzgerald and then the Derek Carr jersey. So this game, it was very interesting. The Raiders looked like they were just going to run away with it. Then the Cardinals come storming back. Murray played very good in the fourth quarter after a very sloppy first half. And then Murray had that crazy 2-point running play. Well, I think he ran like a total of 86 yards.
84 yards, all
somewhere
the way
around the field. Kind of north to south, east to west running. And they fought their way back. I believe, did they get two 2-point conversions, if I'm not mistaken? Yeah, they got two 2-point conversions. And they won in overtime off a crazy play. Renfro got the ball on a quick pass on the left side, tried to get extra yards. And as he was trying to get extra yards, he got hit, and somehow the ball got knocked out. Then Byron Murphy Jr. picks it up and runs it back for, I think, a 59-yard touchdown. So that was a disappointing ending for the Raiders. When you're driving down the field in overtime, you like to win those games. And the Raiders have started 0-2, so that's not
in a division where you don't want to be starting 0-2.
Yeah, that's not looking good. But another team I expect, like the Bengals, to start picking it up. Although the Raiders, I'd say that they haven't looked like terrible. It's just they lost a close game with the Chargers, mainly because Derek Carr threw 3 picks. And then this game, a costly turnover in overtime, and just overall not being able to close out the Cardinals in the fourth quarter hurt them. So turnovers are hurting the Raiders right now. See if they can turn it around. Bills-Titans was one of the 2 Monday night games, both kind of not very exciting as I thought they would be. Bills absolutely destroyed the Titans 41-7. Ryan Tannehill got taken out in the third quarter, but it's just it just wasn't a good game. There's nothing really to say much about it. To be honest, outside of I didn't watch too much of this game. I was mainly watching the Vikings Eagles game. You probably had to see the whatever happened with Orlovsky on the mic pregame.
Oh my God.
Whatever happened there, that was probably more exciting than the actual game itself.
It was very disappointing to see how bad the Titans looked. I was expecting a little bit more. I think we're finally starting to notice the Kings' regression. I think it's almost time to say that.
We'll see. I think Derrick Henry's going to pick it up, but we'll see. I'm pretty much just saying everybody is going to pick it up. So
Yeah.
Chances I'll be wrong on one of these, but Vikings Eagles was the last game we have to talk about for week 2.
What a game.
The game, it actually was closer than it looks. It's 24-7 Eagles over Vikings. The reason why I say it was closer is because the Vikings had so many chances to make this a football game. They would get about to the red zone or so.
And then Kirk Cousins throw it away. He something about Kirk Cousins in prime time. It doesn't click. It's so weird because Kirk Cousins at like a 12 p.m. game looks really, really good, really, really competitive. Kirk Cousins, when he's going to be playing against teams in the prime time, he looks really off. And it's so weird to think that this trend has lasted all the way through his career.
His 2 wins on Monday night against the Bears last 2 years. So
Yep.
He plays them again Monday night this year, if I'm not mistaken. So I think that's week 5. They play each other Monday night. But we can move on to the next segment, which is going to be overreaction segment. This one should be fun.
Gosh, here we go.
I'm going to pull up overreactions. So I'm going to give a statement. We're going to decide if it's an overreaction or not. So this is going to be interesting here. We have a lot of disagreements this week. We're doing 5 this week. We did 3 last week, and we agreed on every one of them.
This week we're not.
But for this week, first one, should Frank Reich be fired? The statement is Frank Reich should be fired. I completely think that is absolutely ridiculous. It would be one of the worst decisions in the history of the Colts franchise if you fire a top 10 coach because of an 0-1-1 start with a banged-up team. You can tell me why you think Frank Reich should be fired, but I don't even know how you make the case that he should be fired.
I don't think he should be fired. I definitely think he needs to be on the hot seat. So I'm going to say that's not an overreaction.
Okay, so you're saying it's not an overreaction.
So it's
not. Wait, it's not an overreaction?
That he should be fired?
He shouldn't be fired, though.
So it's not an overreaction because I definitely think that there are some problems. And we expected the Colts to have a really, really good defense this year. We also expected the Colts to have a really, really good offensive line and a really, really good quarterback and probably the best running back in football. But the problem is that they aren't. They're not good at any of those. And that doesn't come down from just being the specific players. That comes down from the coaching and the leadership. And it looks like something's wrong. And the Colts either need to figure it out or maybe Frank Reich needs to go. So I'm not an overreact. I'm a little bit not an overreaction
my take
on that.
Frank Reich is a top 10 coach in football, in my opinion.
No.
Week 1, they were a little sloppy early. They were a little sloppy in the middle of the game, but that game was mainly just a game of weird plays: a screen on a pick, a drop touchdown, a missed game-winning field goal.
Yeah.
I think the Colts outplayed the Texans that game, even though it wasn't the best showing. Week 2, you're banged up. You're losing your 2 top 2 receivers and your best defensive player, one of the best linebackers in football, in Shaquille Leonard. Yes, I expect you to compete, but it's a game that if you lose it, you were banged up. So it's not like the end of the world, but they definitely didn't compete. So I don't think Frank Reich has done enough to get fired, even though the offense has looked slow early on. Matt Ryan isn't really just playing well at all right now. So we'll see if he picks it up. And I'm going to say it again. I expect him to pick it up. But, that I just don't see it. Why would you fire Frank Reich? I just don't see it.
I don't know. I just don't like him right now. He's not really working out. It's not working out.
It would be kind of like the Doug Peterson a few years ago, where I thought Doug Peterson was a top 10 coach going into that year, and then but Doug Peterson did some crazy things that year, like you wouldn't. What quarterback was he going to commit to, and then the end of the year when he took Hurts out, but I don't see it getting into that bad in Indy, but we'll see. So the next one is, this is going to be a quick one. Eagles are the best team in the NFC. I think it's them with the Bucs right now, so I'm going to say not an overreaction. We both had them as the 1 seed going into the year, so I assume you say not an overreaction as well.
Nope, they look really good.
Yeah, both sides of the ball look really good, so we can move on to the next one. Dolphins are a real threat to the Bills in the AFC East.
Overreaction. Slam in the button. Overreaction. Tua is not that guy.
I'm going to say not an overreaction. I do think Tua Tagovailoa can be an average quarterback, and I think you have so much talent with the receivers, with the defense has just – it didn't play the best last week, but week 1 it did play good. And I just overall expect this defense to be one of the best units in football. Is that you, Graham? With the dogs?
Can you hear the dogs going crazy?
Yeah, you got the dogs
Someone's
in the background.
at the door. I don't know who it is.
But anyway, back to the Dolphins. If you remember, Graham, preseason, I had the Bills 12-5, Dolphins 10-7. So only 2 games apart. I said I think the Dolphins can maybe compete with the Bills. As of now, though, I did have the Dolphins starting 2-0, but the Bills, I'm feeling like I was maybe a little off at 12-5, maybe a little more of a 13-14 win team. But because the Bills are just looking like, are they going to lose a game now with the way they're playing through 2 weeks? But yeah. I still think the Dolphins have a good team, and I think if they can beat the Bills once this year, and you got a real question of can the Dolphins compete with the Bills in the AFC East, and I think they can. So I'm going to say not an overreaction. But anything you want to add before the next one?
I'm just going to say that this is an overreaction. I think the Dolphins, they're going to be a playoff contender, but the Bills are just another tier above them where I don't really think that the Dolphins has a shot this year. I don't think Tua is ready. I don't think Tua will ever be ready to take over, the AFC East. Josh Allen just looks really, really good, dude. Like, it's crazy to think how good he looks. And Tua, yes, he may have thrown 6 touchdowns. How many of those were underthrown balls? How many of them were almost intercepted? How many of them were little 2-yard in route to Jalen Waddle, and he burst out for 65 yards? Like,
Tua threw the ball downfield a good amount
he did throw it down good
last week, but they did also have a lot of yak, so I guess it can go either way.
But when he would throw it deep, like the one to Jalen Waddle and to Tyreek Hill, they're both underthrown, like severely underthrown.
I did notice on one of the deep throws that it was underthrown.
It concerns me because eventually teams are going to catch on, and then they're not going to let them get thrown up over the top like this. So,
I'm going to see something real quick. So, Tua Tagovailoa, PFF has him 9th in quarterback grade.
Oh God!
But it's only been 2 games. But an interesting thing that you kind of hit on was big time throws is classified. Let me look at the key real quick. Let's say quick. Big time throws are classified as a pass with excellent ball location and timing, generally thrown further down the field and/or into a tighter window. It's like a big time throw, maybe downfield in a tight window. They have him at 2 of those, and his turnover-worthy plays, which is a throw that should be intercepted or it is intercepted, they have him at 4. So that's not a good ratio, 2 to 4.
It's not.
No other quarterback in the top 10 right now for PFF has more turnover-worthy plays than big-time throws. So that's not. So you kind of hit the nail on the head on that. I actually learned something because I did not know that. But anyway, we can move on to our next one. This is an interesting one. So 2 weeks ago, or even a week ago, I would have thought this was crazy. But Jets should start Joe Flacco over Zach Wilson when Zach Wilson is back from injury. I'm going to say some stuff right now. The Jets, their roster is good. The corner, Ahmad Gardner, is looking like even better than I thought he would look as a rookie.
He looks really good.
That defense, that front 7 is looking about how I would expect, maybe even better than I would expect. Just the whole team, or the whole defense, is looking good. Gill Wilson is looking good like I expect. So they got the running back combination. I think the line's a little underrated. They got the talent. I really like Robert Saleh. Neither quarterback has shown enough, like in the last few years, where I can say they're a franchise quarterback. But Joe Flacco does have a little experience on his belt. And Joe Flacco is playing like one of the best quarterbacks in just 2 games. He is 3rd in PFF grade, just to get that out there. 5 touchdowns, 1 interception, 616 yards, which would be 3rd in the NFL. So Joe Flacco is playing very well right now. And Zach Wilson coming back from injury, not a good rookie year. If you got a team who I think can fight for the playoffs, maybe you can say they're not a championship team, which is why you start Wilson, because he's the younger quarterback and you want to develop him. You draft him 2nd. But if Flacco is just a better quarterback than Wilson right now, why not put Flacco out there?
I'm going to have to disagree with you on this one. This one's an overreaction. Joe Flacco, I think he's in the time of his career where he is just going to be the backup. And if you need him for 3 or 4 games, just throw him in there. I think this is Zach Wilson's team. I think Zach Wilson's a better quarterback already right now. I don't know. It's just weird because Joe Flacco's looked decent. But I feel like when Zach Wilson's finally healthy, he's going to be able to show that, like, hey, he's finally got it.
You know what this reminds me of? So I didn't say my verdict. My verdict is not an overreaction. So I do think Joe Flacco should still start even when Zach Wilson comes back. And here's what I'm going to say. I'm going to say 2 more things. This situation reminds me a little bit, not to the extent, but of the Philadelphia situation a few years ago with Foles and Wentz. Wentz is way better than Wilson was at that point, and Foles is probably a step or 2 ahead of Flacco at that point, but he did just have a really good couple games in the playoffs, but still say he's a little bit better than Flacco was at that point. But who did they start? They chose the young guy, Wentz. It went wrong. Not saying that's going to go wrong for the Jets if they choose Wilson, but that's what it reminds me of. And another thing with Flacco is a few years ago when Flacco was there with Darnold, Flacco looked better than Sam Darnold when he was out on the field. And yet again, Flacco looks better than Zach Wilson when he's out on the field. So maybe are we just underrating Joe Flacco a little bit and he still can be a solid starting quarterback in this league?
No.
Okay. I don't think it's crazy to say. Maybe.
Yeah, I think it's a little crazy.
The verdict's just been set out. Joe Flacco is elite and will always be elite.
Hey, elite quarterback. He's joined the elite club. Let's give him a round of applause.
Okay, but we can move on. So, Jaguars will win the AFC South is our next statement. This is a tough one. I'm going to say overreaction. It's close, though, because I basically eliminated the Texans, and the Titans are pretty close to being eliminated for me. I'll give them a little bit of pass, though. Wheeled week 1, played a tough team in week 2. But the Jaguars are looking better than the Colts as of now, but I still have the Colts out of in my power rankings because I'm factoring in a little bit of preseason since it's only been 2 games. So I'm factoring in my preseason prediction a little bit. But the Colts, I still think they're going to get it going. Think about this. The Colts are only half a game behind the Jags right now. 1-1. Jags are 1-1. Right now, would you rather have the Colts roster or the Jags? I'd still rather take the Colts roster. But the thing that makes me think maybe I could be wrong on this is Trevor Lawrence. Because with how I think he's looking right now and how I think he progresses throughout the year, I think he's only going to continue to progress as a quarterback. And by the end of the year, top 10 to 12 quarterback is my prediction for Trevor Lawrence. And with that, and with the way the team is looking right now, that could mean playoff spot. But I just still think the Colts are a step ahead of the Jaguars roster-wise. And that makes me want to take the Colts over the Jaguars.
So my verdict on this one is going to be very interesting. And I won't take too much time on this. But for your exact reasons why you said that Trevor Lawrence, with the whole developing and possibly being a playoff team, is the reason on why I'm going to say not an overreaction. So, if you look at this division right now, I'm going to agree with you. The Texans, they're out. Titans, I'm also going to say that they're officially out. 2 losses against 2 teams that this shouldn't really happen. I mean, the first game, it's understandable, I guess. I mean, it's a weird week 1. The Giants surprisingly look pretty good with Brian Dable. And then the Colts, I mean, you're playing two bottom-tier teams, or so we thought bottom-tier teams.
Well, and okay. The Titans played the Bills.
Exactly. Yeah, I just think if you're starting off the season 0-2 in the AFC South.
Or the AFC as a whole, you mean?
Yeah, but especially the AFC South, the way how these teams play against each other, usually they all drop a game to each other. That's usually what happens. If you go look back into the past years, no team sweeps really anyone in this division. For some weird reason, they always play each other tough. I think that it's hard to really make a comeback in the AFC South. So I'm going to go ahead and say that this isn't necessarily impossible, and I think it's actually more possible than it not being possible. So I'm going to go not an overreaction.
Okay. So it's hard because Jaguars will win the AFC South. That's the statement. So it's either overreaction, they'll not win the AFC South, or not an overreaction, they are win the AFC South. So it's weird because I feel like I'm kind of like you. Well, I could see them winning it, but I'm going to say overreaction because I don't think they're going to win it, and that's the statement. So do you think the Jaguars win the AFC South?
As of today, yes, I do see them winning it.
It's kind of like last year, the Bengals, they just kept winning. I'm like, okay, they're going to fall off at some point. Nope, they didn't fall off, and look at them.
So, do you remember a while ago, like right when the season ended, and we sent each other like our rankings for next year. Do you remember who I had winning the AFC South?
Okay, you had the Jags winning, but we started a pod since then. We have our predictions out. You did not have the Jags win the AFC
But I'm
South.
just saying, it's been thought of. I thought
Okay,
of
it's been thought of. It's been thought of.
it.
But anyway, one more thing. Jaguars. Going back to the Titans. Titans are 0-2. Jags are 1-1. You're one game out of your division, and I think the Titans are still a better roster than Jacksonville.
I think Jacksonville's
Even though Tennessee is getting banged up, so that could hurt them. But are you really going to tell me Tennessee is out of it? Like that's overreaction. Move on. Next segment.
All right.
Next segment will be your top 10 teams, Graham. So I realized whenever I was making this for you, we're putting together the graphic because it's obviously your list. But I realized it was very similar to last week. So let's just go over this quickly.
We'll talk about the first 5 this week. So we'll go from 1 down to 10. And I'll go ahead and start off with my first 5 because they've pretty much stayed the same. My 6 through 10 jumbled a little bit.
So starting off with your 1 through 5, you can just rapid through these and say whatever you want about them, and I can add after.
Pretty much the same 5. Chargers and Eagles flip. So we got Bills 1. They look like the best team in football. We got Chiefs 2. They beat the Chargers, and I just think they deserve to be up there. Nick, are you okay?
Yeah, right.
We got Bucks 3. Defense looks like the best defense in football. Offense looks a little shaky with Tom Brady at quarterback. Almost thought about putting them down to 4 and putting the Eagles up to 3. But I decided to keep the Eagles at number 4. Pretty much a dominant performance by the Eagles against the Vikings. Nick is doing some weird voodoo stuff over there trying to distract me. I don't think he's very necessarily happy with the list. I got number 5. I got the Los Angeles Chargers. Tough loss to the Chiefs. Justin Herbert looked really, really, really good at quarterback. Too bad he got hurt. But they showed a lot of tough and tenacity about this team. And even though they lost by 3 points, I still think that they're going to be at that race at the end of the year. Nick, anything you want to say about 1 through 5, or
can I just go to 10? I'll hit on it after.
Okay, so and then number 6 team, I have the Los Angeles Rams. Good little win back here, coming back against the Atlanta Falcons. Atlanta Falcons seem like they're going to give a lot of teams a lot of trouble this year. But I'm glad to see the Rams actually getting the ball rolling. I'm still a little bit worried about Matthew Stafford and his elbow. He doesn't look like he can really get throwing it down the field as much. Cooper Kupp still looks really, really good. Still waiting to see a little bit more of Allen Robinson. But number 7, I got the Miami Dolphins. That was really impressive. Even though I just said about how Tua is not elite and all that, that doesn't mean that this team isn't a top 10 team. I don't think they'll be competing for the Bills, like I said, another tier. Dolphins won't be in that tier, but I definitely think they're going to be in that playoff team tier. And I had to throw them in above the Ravens, but I still have the Ravens at the top 10. Actually, speaking of them, we're going to go right into number 8. I got the Ravens. Lamar Jackson deserves to get paid a lot of money. He really kept this team in the game using his arm and his legs. Rashard Bateman looks really, really fast, and that's about it. But moving on to number 9 and number 10, they are both NFC North teams, and no, none of them are the Packers. The Packers did not look that impressive against the Bears. I was expecting more offense, more defense. That first drive when the Bears just ran down the field and just scored on them like that, that was bad. And I'm actually going to take that into account. So, Vikings at number 9. I really, really, really like this team. Kirk Cousins playing in prime time. I'm not going to give them too much fault for that. And then my number 10 team, the Detroit Football Lions. Jared Goff is a better quarterback than Tua. I will stand by that, and I will completely agree with anyone who says that's a great. I think that's a great take. It's a little hot take. I know it's a very hot take, but I think Jared Goff right now is playing like an above-average quarterback. He has definitely led the charge of this offensive firepower. DeAndre Swift and Mr. Williams over there, great one and 2 running back duo. DeAndre Swift can do a lot more than I really thought. He can catch the football. He reminds me a lot of like Alvin Kamara. And then not to mention Aiden Hutchinson, 2 sacks and 2 or 3 sacks in one game. He looked really, really, really good. So, Interesting. Sorry, Nick sent me a little text message about what's going on with him. He's having a little bit of problems with his hamstring. Someone pulled a hammy at basketball. But we're gonna go ahead and ask Nick. Nick, what do you think about this top 10? What are you thinking?
You got the Dan Campbell offensive. Wait, can you hear me now?
Yeah, we got you.
You got the Dan Campbell offensive juggernaut Lions at 10, averaging 35.5 points per game. That is the shock of the year so far for me. We'll see if they can continue.
Told you this Lions team is dangerous.
They're not dangerous. The Lions are going to slow down on offense. They're going to win about 4, 5, 6 games max. This team is not very good. This is going to take time. If I'm wrong, I'll admit I'm wrong about the Lions, but I don't think I'm going to be wrong. But we'll see. Vikings at 9. I like it. I like them there. A disappointing game, but I have them a little bit lower than you, but that's all right. Ravens at 8. I like it. Dolphins 7. I have them a spot higher than you. I have them over the Rams, but I like it. Rams at 6. I just feel like the blowout week 1. A little close game with the Falcons, but they had control of it the whole way.
Yeah.
I don't think the Rams have shown that they're better than the Dolphins or Ravens. And I was a little bit low on the Rams. I had them at 10 going into the year than most people. So I guess that's why I have them still below the Dolphins, Ravens at this point. But on to 5. Chargers. I believe I have the Chargers 5. We have the same top 5, just different order. I have Chiefs at 4, Eagles at 3, Bucks 2, Bills 1. Bills clear cut 1. 2 through 4 can go anyway. I had the Bucks and Eagles over the Chiefs preseason. Nothing has told me to change that, so I'm keeping it that way. But yeah, I like your top 10. We agree on a lot of things. I just don't understand how the Detroit Lions are a top 10 football team. I have the Lions at 28 in my power rankings. Like, what?
We just see the completely opposite. I love this offense. This offense is fun to watch. Elite offensive line. Really, really, really good running back duo. An above-average quarterback. And finally, Dan freaking Campbell. Dan Campbell is a GOAT, and he's eating kneecaps.
We're just going to have a weekly Lions debate until, like, week 8, whenever we have the verdict on them, if someone have the verdict. It's like we're going to be debating about them if they're on your top 10 or if they're in your picks, if you have them winning, have them losing, and this going to be a Lions debate.
We're just getting started with the Lions.
But anyway, we can move on to the next segment, which is my MVP ladder. So I'm going to get that one pulled up real quick. Let's get my MVP ladder.
Honestly, I think my Lions prediction is going to be going quite swimmingly.
Have you seen my MVP ladder yet?
Yes, I have. I went over it. It's definitely interesting.
So on the MVP ladder, as you can see, I have Josh Allen 1 still. He was my preseason MVP pick. Week 1, he was the best player or the best quarterback, most valuable player. Week 2, he was the most valuable player for weeks 1 and 2 combined. So Josh Allen still atop the list. I don't think that's a debate. Like, who even could you say quarterback-wise has competed with him? No one. So on to 2, Micah Parsons. Parsons at 2, he's not single-handedly, but almost single-handedly won the game Sunday. He's just outstanding. First in sacks with 4. It looks like he's playing as mainly just an edge rusher this year so far.
Yep.
Which I like a lot because I think he has just all-time stud-like edge rusher talent.
He's so quick.
Micah Parsons leads the league in sacks with 4. I believe he's tied for the lead league in QB hits, pressures, or all that stuff. He's like either just first or tied for first with someone. Pressure. So pretty much just every pass rush thing, he's either first or tied for first. So he leads the league in like all that. It's only 2 games, but one of the games against a really good team, or a team that I expect to be really good, he basically was the main reason why they won that game.
Yep.
So I just feel like he's just shown a lot early on in the year. And he has a high pass rush win rate, 25.4. That's pretty high pass rush win rate. So I just like what I'm seeing out of Micah Parsons, and I think he's made a case to be one of the most valuable players in football early on. On number 3, I have a receiver in here. Last week I had Jefferson at 3, 2 or 3. I think he actually might have been 2. But Jefferson kind of didn't do the best against Slay like I would think he would do this previous game Monday night. So I think Diggs, though, 2 really good weeks, a lot of yards both weeks, touchdowns, I believe, in both games. I know
great route running.
I know he had 2 or 3 touchdowns this last game. I'm actually going to check this real quick.
2 touchdowns. I think he had 1 touchdown last week.
He has 4 touchdowns on the year. He had 3.
3 this last week, and then 1 week 1.
And he's Looking at the PFF grades, he's first, 90.9 grade. Second is Cooper Kupp with 87.7. So there's a little bit of a gap between him and the next receiver. But 270 yards, that's second behind Tyreek Hill. I actually did not know Tyreek Hill was leading the league in receiving yards.
Yeah, it's Tyreek Hill, Stephon Diggs, and then Jalen Waddle, which is interesting.
Kupp and Jefferson.
Yeah.
But just Diggs, the touchdowns, the connection with Allen, the best team in football right now.
They look good.
They just look good all around. Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs, I feel like both have to be in here, at least Diggs in your top 5 or so. But I have him here at 3 because I just don't think there's been a quarterback who I could put at 3 like Joe Flacco. I'm kidding. this Tua.
I would say Patrick Mahomes. I would say
Herbert. I could see Lamar, but his team is 1-on-1, so that maybe hurts him. But then again, Micah Parsons is 1-on-1, but he's just been playing so good.
He's literally the reason why they're 1-1 and not.
He's literally the reason why they're not 0-2. So
yep.
Let's move on to the next segment. What we're most looking forward to for this week in the NFL. I forgot to pull up this for my last one. This is my MVP lotto. But anyway, we're moving on to what we're most looking forward to this week. I'm going to start off. Let me repeat that. I'm going to start us off here. Wentz versus the Eagles. This game, I think, could actually be interesting, but mainly because Wentz is playing the Eagles. It's not in Philadelphia yet, unfortunately, because that would be even more interesting than it is right now. But Wentz versus his old team, I still feel like it's going to be interesting. Wentz versus Hurts. There's not too much amazing games this weekend, but I definitely think this is what caught my eye the most.
Yep, I agree.
He's been playing pretty well, so
yeah,
see if he keeps up.
We'll see how it goes. But my thing that I'm looking most forward to this week is if the Lions can actually turn out to be the best team in the NFC North. They're playing the Vikings, the current number 1 seed in the NFC North. Can the Lions beat the Vikings and throw themselves atop of the division? And you'll actually see I may have them winning and being my underdog pick of the week.
The Lions, wow, yeah. They could definitely win this week, but now we can move on to our last segment for the podcast. It's probably longest segment, so we're close to it. It'll be the picks is what we're going over now.
We actually have a lot different. We have 5 or 6 games this week.
We have 6
games. Week. Yeah, we have a lot to talk about, and
there's a lot of back and forth games this week.
Yeah,
really.
A lot to talk about, not a lot of time to do it. Let's get it rolling, Nick. You want me to start off?
Starting off, Steelers Browns. This game is actually in a couple hours from now, as we're recording this. Steelers Browns is going to be a very interesting game. Browns are 4.5-point favorites. I'm so back and forth on this one.
Yeah,
but I am just rolling with the Steelers. I like Mitch Trubisky. And I think that Mitch Trubisky is a better quarterback than Brissett. That could be the difference. But then again, Steelers don't have TJ Watt. The Browns have Myles Garrett, but they are missing Clowney. So I'm somewhat confident in the Steelers winning this game, but not really, because the Browns definitely could win as the favorite at home.
Yeah, I disagree with you. Browns are at home. I'm just going to go ahead and get the Browns. This game's a coin flip.
And before we continue talking about this podcast, overall records, we're tied now, 19-12 for each of us this year. I'll take
you have the tiebreaker.
Why because the upset of the week?
Yeah, you have
2-0 because I had Jets over Browns last week. I was jumping when the Jets won. I'm like, yeah, Jets, Jets.
Oh no.
Because I had the Jets beating the Browns. They were 6-point underdogs. And what was your upset of the week last week? I forgot.
I don't remember.
It was Patriots-Steelers.
Patriots-Steelers.
It was 2.5-point spread, but that was your biggest underdog. And Steelers lost to Patriots. But moving on to the next one, Texans-Bears. They should flex this game to primetime, honestly, because this game is very intriguing. You can't tell I'm joking, Graham. You got the Bears versus Texans. I'm actually excited to see an old school 1950s, 20 completions combined, 10-7, Bears win over Texans. Going to be an interesting game. What do you have to say? You have the Texans winning.
I think Davis Mills is just going to play better than Justin Fields. That's about it. I think Davis Mills has more weapons to throw to. I think Brandon Cooks is going to have a decent game. But, I just think the Texans are just going to win this game. There's not really much to say.
I think the Bears are going to win it on the ground because the Texans' secondary with Stingley is good. Bears haven't been looking good throwing the ball. That could change. But I feel like the Bears are going to win this game on the ground. And the Bears' defense I like versus the Texans, and it's in Chicago. So give me the Bears to beat the Texans and go to 2-1, baby. On to the next one, Raiders versus Titans. The 0-2 battle. I got the Raiders. We both got the Raiders. Titans just aren't looking good. I think the Raiders are gonna be able to do enough to win the
they're
the
gonna
game.
wipe the floor.
I don't think they're gonna wipe the floor. It's gonna be a close game, 3 to 4 point game in my opinion. Titans could get Derrick Henry going, and just maybe that could be what wins them the game. The game is in Nashville, but I'm gonna take the Raiders to beat the Titans. On to the next one, my upset of the week. Colts beating Chiefs. Colts have to get a win. They're gonna get a win at some point. This is a good time to do it. It's in Indy. It is a 12 o'clock game, but it is in Indy. And Trent McDuffie is out for the Chiefs, so that could help because the Colts are expected to have Pittman back. Pittman plays, Colts win. Pittman doesn't play, I'm picking Chiefs. But as of now, Pittman is on schedule to play. And I feel like the Colts can get Jonathan Taylor going and maybe win this game in a 31-28 game. I think the Colts actually offense is going to get going. The sick of hearing the trash talk about the Colts. And I think that this offense with the run game and with Pittman is going to get going this week. And see if the Chiefs can win. Am I confident the Colts will win? No, but I'm picking the Colts. What about you?
So I need to look up the set to be for sure. But Patrick Mahomes inside of indoor stadiums is 9-1 or something like that. It's
the
crazy.
Indoor stadium thing scares me a little bit because I think Mahomes is going to be able
Patrick Mahomes can just throw it anywhere he wants, however he wants, whenever he wants when he's in an indoor stadium. And I think Patrick Mahomes is just going to continue on that train. And I don't really think the Colts are going to be competitive. So I'm going to have the Chiefs winning that game.
I'm looking up that stat real quick, but I don't think I can find anything.
Do you want me to move on to the other teams?
Yeah, we can just move on. I can't find anything on it anyway, so we'll move on to the next game.
All right, so the next game is going to be Bills-Dolphins. This game's kind of interesting. I have both of these two teams in my top 10, but I'm going to go ahead and say the Bills are going to take care of business here. Miami, this can kind of be a trap game for the Bills. Miami looks pretty good these first 2 weeks. Tua necessarily hasn't been bad, but I think this is the week where Tua finally shows his cracks and his inabilities to throw the football down the field.
This is a nice game. I have these teams 1 and 6 in my power rankings. Bills at 1, Dolphins at 6. I just feel like it's hard to see the Dolphins win this game because coming off a big emotional late game heroic win, teams usually slump the next week, and the Bills are just looking so good right now. But this game is in Miami, so that could help out the Dolphins. But we can move on to the next one, Vikings versus Lions. Game we have different. Fourth game we have different so far. I have the Vikings. They're the better team than the Lions. I trust the closers with Cousins and that defense more than I trust the Lions closers. I think it's going to be a close one, but give me the Vikings to beat the Lions in Minnesota. But Lions will cover the 6-point spread. I do think Lions cover the 6-point spread. That's a big spread.
Yeah, I think the 6-point spread on the Lions is kind of criminal. I feel like that's wrong. I think the Lions are going to actually go inside of US Bank Stadium, and they're gonna beat them. I think they'll beat them. I think it'll be a close game. It'll be a really good game. I think Jeff Okudah, if they decide to put Jeff Okudah on Justin Jefferson, we'll see who gets on Justin Jefferson. Whoever is going up against him, I'm sorry, Justin Jefferson's going to have a field day. But
Justin Jefferson will have a field day, but Jeff Okudah has looked nice.
Jeff Okudah has not looked bad.
Jefferson will have a field day, though.
He will have I agree. But I think the Lions overall, I trust the Lions offensive line late in the fourth quarter. Then I trust the Vikings offensive line late in the fourth quarter. And I think you give Jared Goff time in the pocket to go through his progressions, he's going to be able to get it done. So I have the Lions.
On to our next one, Ravens, Patriots. Before the year, I believe I had the Patriots winning this game. I feel like the Patriots could get the run game going. The defense has impressed. I thought the Patriots were going to be an offensive team, bad defense. Defense looking better than the offense so far.
Yeah, they're both stale.
But I feel like at this point, you're playing Lamar Jackson. This is when the defense will come back down to earth and not look as good as it has the first 2 weeks. I feel like Lamar Jackson, this Ravens offense just looks so good, and I can't pick the Patriots. As much as I want to, I'm going to take the Ravens to beat the Patriots. On to the next one, Bengals, Jets. This is an intriguing game. Joe Flacco and company kind of continue off of last week's momentum and win this game versus the Bengals. The Bengals
last year.
Yeah, the Jets did beat the Bengals last year in a shootout. Bengals have to get it going, though. This is a game where I was tempted to pick the Jets, but it's just hard to see the Jets winning this game. But on to the next one, Eagles, Commandos, Carson Wentz versus Jalen Hurts. I just feel like the Eagles are the better team simply than the Commandos. This game is in Washington, so that's an advantage for the Commandos, but I just can't see the Eagles really. I could see them losing this game, but I'd be surprised if they lose this game. How about you?
I don't think I'd be surprised if Washington beat Philly this week because of the whole Wentz revenge. But I do still think the Eagles are going to win this game. It's going to be. I don't know if it'll be close. I just think the Eagles are just more complete. And yeah.
On to the next game, Panthers Saints. I have the Panthers beating the Saints. This game is in Carolina, right, Graham? I'm not tripping.
Yes, it is in Carolina.
It's in Carolina. Panthers are due for a win. Baker and company versus a Saints offense with Winston, who I think is kind of struggling right now.
It definitely is.
Winston is going to maybe throw a turnover due to this defense of Carolina, and I think Carolina has Baker, DJ Moore, Christian McCaffrey healthy to take advantage of those turnovers and just get the first win of the year. So give me the Panthers to beat the Saints in this game.
Saints got to get back on track at some point this year, and I think the Panthers is going to be the team that gets us back on track. I need to see improvement from Jameis Winston. This is kind of scaring me. He opened the bakery last week with four cupcakes right to the other team.
Winston had 4 picks. It was like
it was like 4. I think it was 4, if I'm not wrong. I'm trying to think, or was it 3? 1 pick 6. Another one to that same guy, and then 1 more. So it was 3 or 4. I don't really.
Winston has 3 picks this
3
year.
picks.
He has 3 last week.
Yep, he had 3 picks. I didn't know if he had 4. One of the turnovers was a fumble by Chris Olave. But anyways, just Jameis Winston opened the bakery with 3 cupcakes. Just scares me, man. I don't want to see him turn into what he was a couple years ago. And I think this week maybe he'll finally get it going and he'll actually be able to throw the football down the field. I think looking at this game this year compared to last year when the Saints played the Panthers, this team actually has a wide receiving core compared to that game last year where the Saints, everyone was hurt. I think this year we're going to be able to go into Carolina and take care of business.
Jaguars versus Chargers is the next game. I'm going to put this game into simple terms. If Justin Herbert plays, Chargers, no doubt. If Justin Herbert is out, I'm taking the Jaguars.
Yep, I agree. Exact same thing.
That's just going to be the pick. Justin Herbert plays. It seems like he's going to play. Chargers win pretty comfortably, but not in a blowout. It'll be somewhat close. Yep. But if Justin Herbert's out, I'm not taking the Jaguars. I'm not even thinking about it. Chase Daniel versus Trevor Lawrence.
I'm taking
the Jaguars team coming off of a hot win. So if Justin Herbert is out, we'll just put in the comments that we're picking the Jags. But I expect Herbert to play, and we're both picking the Chargers.
Yep.
Is that enough for that one?
Yep. Let's move on.
Moving on to the next game, Rams Cardinals. I just don't see the Cardinals winning this game.
No, neither do I.
I don't feel like they match up good versus the Rams, and the Cardinals defense looks a little shaky and on paper not very good. And I think the Rams are just going to take advantage of this and get a statement win versus a division opponent. But on to a game with 2 of the worst teams in football, Seahawks Falcons. I think this game is actually in Seattle. I'm going to take the Falcons to beat the Seahawks, though. I feel like the Falcons are going to get I have the hiccups. Some passes on the Seahawks corners with those receivers, Drake London, and the tight end Kyle Pitts. I feel like it's finally going to get going. They've heard enough from the fantasy complainers not getting points. They're going to have to feed Kyle Pitts the ball. He's the best player on your team, or arguably the best player on your team, him or AJ Terrell. You got to feed him the football. I forgot to mention Grady Jarrett too, but you got to feed Kyle Pitts the football, and I feel like this is a good secondary to do that against, especially with Jamal Adams out now. Is Quandre Diggs back? I'm not sure yet if he's back from ACL. So this secondary is really thin, and I feel like they're just going to get beat up by the Falcons' passing attack. But I could be wrong. Game could go either way, but give me the Falcons to beat the Seahawks. Why do you have the Seahawks beating the Falcons?
Yeah, I just got the Seahawks beating the Falcons this week because I think Geno Smith is overall going to be he's a better backup than Marcus Mariota. Geno Smith actually has weapons to throw to that haven't got off to a cold start. DK Metcalf looks pretty good. Tyler Lockett looks okay. He's got that barrage of tight ends that he somehow utilized week 1 against Russell Wilson's Broncos. And I just think since it's being played in Seattle, I'm going to give the edge to the Seahawks. If it was played in Atlanta, I'd give the Falcons an edge. But also my inner Saints fandom is kind of giving me a little bit bias. I hate Atlanta. I never want to see Atlanta win. So I'm going to go ahead and pick the Seahawks.
I can see your point of view. The away team has to travel across the country.
That's a far travel.
Seattle is a tough place to play, so I could see the Seahawks winning this game, but I'm just going to go with the Falcons because of the matchup I like.
Yep.
But on to the next one, Bucks Packers.
Good game.
I'm not as excited for this game as I was in previous years, mainly because one, I feel like Brady and Rodgers They're still very good, but I don't think they're as good as they were a year or two ago even. And
Yeah,
Mike Evans is out with a suspension after pushing in, I believe it was Lattimore.
he's
So,
an idiot.
who, Evans?
Yeah, he's an idiot.
You didn't like that he pushed Lattimore?
Oh no, he completely undeserving. He deserves more than 1 game suspension. I mean,
More than one game for a push?
he didn't push him though. That's the thing. So this whole beef, I'm not going to get into it because it makes me upset that the fact that Marshawn Lattimore got disqualified from the game last week when he did nothing other than talk trash, and yet Mike Evans gets him thrown to the ground, and all of a sudden they're both ejected. It just things didn't make sense. The refs looked a little shaky in the Saints game, and I think those refs need to be fired from their jobs because that was terrible. But
Anyway,
anyways,
I think the reason why I have the Bucs even without Mike Evans is they did sign Cole Beasley. They got Julio Jones expected to come back from injury after missing week 2.
yep.
And I don't think you
They're
have Chris Godwin healthy.
No,
Actually,
he's
Chris
not.
Godwin
His
might be
hamstring's still
healthy. Is he
hurt, I
healthy?
think.
Okay. I'm unsure about Chris Godwin, but I feel like the Packers offense could get one-dimensional here. As much as I like the Packers running game, this is a tough Bucs defense to run on. But maybe they have an advantage now with Akeem Hicks being out. But
No.
I feel like that they could get one-dimensional, and then you got your receivers. I don't trust the receivers or the passing game overall too much versus that Bucs secondary as a whole. So I think the Packers could get a little stale on offense. I think Brady and the Bucs would do enough to win this game. It isn't Tampa Bay, which is a big advantage for the Buccaneers. So I think the Buccaneers beat the Cowboys, not the Cowboys, the Packers. They beat the Cowboys a few weeks ago, but wouldn't shock me if the Packers won. But give me the Bucs because of the reasons I stated.
Yep.
Anything you would add?
Nothing really. I'm excited to see the game. I think Tom Brady's Bucs team is just a little bit better than Aaron Rodgers' Packers team. It'll be good. It'll be close, but we can move on to the next.
On to the next one, the Sunday night game. Wait, you forgot to put a star here. Do we have this one different? You have Broncos?
Oh, I forgot to put a star. That's my bad.
Wait, do you have Broncos or Niners though?
I do actually have Broncos.
Okay, you have the Broncos.
I think it'll be a. Here, I'll explain while you're moving that out. I have the Broncos beating the 49ers. The Broncos got to get off started somewhere. And I think it'll take a little bit of time for Jimmy G to get acclimated back to the quarterback one role. And I think this game will be a little bit sloppy, but I'm going to have Russell Wilson winning this game. But it'll be a good game.
I have the Niners beating the Broncos. I just feel like this Niners team is going to rally around Jimmy G and company, and I feel like I like the Niners roster as a whole more than the Broncos. I feel like the Broncos have a tough task with that Niners pass rush and defense overall, and I just like the Niners to take advantage of the critical opportunities with Shanahan versus Hackett and company in Denver. But I do think the Broncos will get going at some point, but I just don't feel like this is going to be the week that they do that. So give me the San Francisco Niners, who, let me make sure this game is in San Francisco because that does play a big part in my pick. But I believe this game is in San Francisco.
I think it is in San Fran. That's why they're playing it on Sunday night, I believe.
They're playing in
San Fran, right?
No, they're actually in Denver.
Are they really?
I thought this game was in San Francisco. So that makes me a little less confident, but I'm not going to change my pick now. Niners beating Broncos. But it's a 50-50 game in my opinion, so it makes sense that we have it different. On to the Monday night game. Come on, we're not going with Cooper Rush.
Nah, not this week.
We both have the Giants starting 3-0, beating the Cowboys. This just could maybe be a letdown game for the Giants, though. Maybe Micah Parsons absolutely takes over the game. Cooper Rush and CeeDee Lamb do enough versus the Giants secondary and win this game. Now that I'm talking about why the Cowboys should win, it makes me want to pick the Cowboys. But again, I'm sticking with my pick. Giants, they're just a better roster than the Cowboys with Dak out. It changed the whole trajectory of the game. And I feel like Giants team kind of riding hot at home Monday night. They want to get a big win. I think they're going to do it, even though Micah Parsons scares me. But I just feel like the Giants, this is a game you need to win if you want to take that next step as an organization, and I think they will win this game versus the Cowboys. Not the best explanation, but I'm picking the Giants. Daniel Jones is a better quarterback than Cooper Rush. There you go.
I'm gonna have to agree with you or disagree. Or I'll agree with you in this game. Brian Dable looks like he's doing really good with the Giants. Cooper Rush, I think the hype train's gonna simmer down, and I think Daniel Jones does not necessarily look bad. I think this Giants team sneakily might be competitive this year, Brian Dable just looks like he's kind of like changed something here, and I'm excited to see.
I don't think this Giants team is going to be too competitive. I think they're just going to get off to a fast start and simmer down. But maybe if 6-7 wins is competitive, then that's what I think they'll be. But anyway, that'll be enough for this podcast. We went through everything we wanted to go through. Just about an hour podcast. Hope you guys enjoyed. By the way, if you see our new logo, it's right here up in the top.
Yep.
But yeah, that's our first podcast as the Gridiron Talk Zone, but it's our 10th podcast overall. We'll be back next week. When you thinking, Graham, next week? Back to try to do a Tuesday schedule?
We're going to try to do Tuesday. I'm sorry, guys. This is all on me. I've been very busy recently. I'm on a little bit different schedule than Nick. So, like, for an example, this week is actually technically my homecoming week because my date goes to a different school. So it's a little bit different. Next week, Nick might be a little bit busy. I know he's got all of his girls coming up to him about homecoming, but no, I'm just kidding. But yeah, hopefully it'll be next Tuesday. Crossing my fingers. But that's about it, Nick. Oh, wait. I have one more thing to say. We're going to get Dan Snyder. We are going to get him. By the end of this year, he will be mine.
Wait, what?
Dan Snyder? He's gone.